Welcome to Alter Everything, a podcast about data science and analytics culture. As the year comes to a close, people all over the world are taking time to reflect. Maybe you hit a big life milestone, surpassed your yearly reading goal, or ran a marathon. Now, I didn't do any of those things, but it's fine because actually my favorite thing to reflect on is my music listening habits for the year. So whether you got a Spotify Wrapped, Apple Music Replay, or simply know your soundtrack of the year by heart, there's a lot of music data out there. But what kind of data is collected? How do folks in the music business use it to make decisions, and how do those decisions play into what we ultimately listen to? For today's episode, you'll hear from Charlie Torrable, head of data and insight for one of the world's leading music labels, Warner Records.
Hey everyone, my name's Charlie Torrable. I'm head of data and insight for Warner Records. I've been there. I joined 3 years ago, was introduced to Alteryx 2.5 years ago. Credit Alteryx with my promotion. Go on, let's start the Alteryx hype train straight away.
Hosting the conversation with Charlie is my colleague Doyen Sonabar, an enterprise account executive at Alteryx. Doyen is also a doctoral researcher at Brunel University London, studying health inequalities and the experiences of Black sickle cell patients in the UK. She's passionate about DEI and B topics, is the events lead for the Women and Allies EMEA Network, and is an ambassador for the Duke of Edinburgh Award. Throughout their conversation, Charlie will share how analytics is a major player at Warner Records, how he himself got into the music industry, and how passionate he is about inclusion and psychological safety at work. Let's get started.
Okay, so before we get into it, I thought it'd be really fun to do a quick this or that game.
Oh.
So don't think about it too much.
Okay, perfect.
First answer that comes to your mind,
Yes.
Just say it, okay?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Pizza or Chinese?
Pizza.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert. I want to say both answers to each of these questions so far. That's not the game, is it?
No, it's
It
not.
should be, okay.
Pick one.
Extrovert.
Okay.
With anxiety.
Okay. Burner Boy or WizKid?
Oh, burner.
I agree with you on that one. Okay. Beer or wine?
Beer.
LA or New York?
LA.
Really?
No. But again, you're asking questions. I want to go both sides.
Okay.
So
No.
LA. Yeah, but
You said LA. That's the answer I'm taking. Okay. Football or rugby?
Exposition. Rugby.
Yeah, you said your family, right?
We did.
Big
We went
rugby
out for
fans.
dinner yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Behind the scenes.
And it was great. We had Asian, even though he said he prefers pizza, but it's all good.
You...
Back to the game. Painting or photography?
Photography.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
David Guetta or Calvin Harris?
Guetta.
I knew you were going to say that because he's on Warner Records. All right, thanks. That was fun.
He's not actually on Warner Records. He's on Warner Music Group, but
you're still staying loyal to
loyal
to
I want
overarching.
Yeah, I'm going to send this to all the execs of the company so they know.
And then you'll get
my
another
colours.
pay.
Yeah.
Very right. But no, honestly, it's great to hear that you're from Warner Records and you've had like a great career so far. I think it'll be really interesting to hear where your career started from and how you got into where you are today.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do the short version. You know, as a kid, guitarist, loved music, very excited, listening to records on the radio and always could imagine myself playing the guitar. And, complete passion from as early as I can remember. Picked up the guitar, had a great time. Went to uni to do physics. It was either between music and at uni or physics at uni, and then kind of flopped my music A-levels. So cruised through the maths and sciences. So I was like, right, I can still love music, but I'm going to go study physics. Degree in physics, finished the degree, and then try to get into music. And everyone's like, why did you do a physics degree? That was a terrible idea. You have no music industry experience. The key thing here you need is experience. And that was a long grind, eventually getting through the door at an internship, unpaid in those days. Got fired from that 4 months in. I'm going to air all my dirty laundry here. This is going to be real talk for the rest of this show.
Please do. It's a safe space.
did the internship, then did another internship, and this second internship is where the real dots start getting joined. I'm at Warner Chappell, music publisher, one of the majors, and I'm working in their legal and biz department. I get to tech out on some really nerdy clauses and stuff, and they were like, you just go and do your thing on that stuff. And it was great. And the link that I'll come back to later is there's an A&R in Warner Chappell, and A&R stands for Artist and Repertoire, and they are the people in charge of bringing the deals in. There's an A&R who is having the most amazing string of hits, and he's signing, Leanne La Havas, Royal Blood, Tom Adele, Michael Kiwanuka, London Grammar. There's loads more, but there was just immensely fast, amazing music, bringing in amazing music. And I talked to him and the colleagues there. I'm like, how do you do this? What do you do? And they're like, go get your own roster. And if you get a good roster, then someone's going to employ you as an A&R because you can clearly hear music.
And by roster, you mean like...
So find talent out there to represent. Go and find it yourself. Everyone has the means if they have the kind of time, which is a luxury in itself. But go and get your own roster of talent. And then if your roster's good enough, a publisher like Warner Chappell or someone might take you on. So that begins my foray into artist management. It takes me 9 months to sign my first client, and I'm 23, I think, then, or 24. I'm sorry, I said I'd do a short version of this, and this is...
It's okay. The long version's more interesting.
Okay. And sign the first client, and then the adventure starts there, and we split into two strands, like the real paid work and the kind of make-believe management work on the side. After 18 months at Warner Chappell, I go to Polydor as an analyst. It's my first time working as an analyst in the industry. I think I got that job because I'd recently watched Moneyball, and I just was talking about the film in the interview, and that was the level everyone was at in 2013. So 2013, going to Polydor as an analyst, 18 months there, and I leave to be a consultant analyst, just shop my work around and focus on management full time. It's going quite well. I've partnered up with a really good friend, and we are now signing some deals that seem to be working. Our artists, we've managed to develop to a certain point. And then I spend, I think, 2 or 3 years focusing purely on that, the artist management, and doing a bit of analytics consultancy, lots of touring, lots of making shit up as you go along. The final 2 steps are take a year out of music and go and production manage some amazing and bombastic science shows, lots of explosions. Come back to music, work in artist management again, and then spend 2 years then, leave that. Management is hard work, and I needed a break. And luckily, here is the callback. Luckily, I got a call from the person who is now the president of Warner Records, who had been one of the A&Rs when I was an intern at Warner Chappell and had been talking to, and he said, go get your roster. And he'd heard I was a good analytical manager, and he was like, what would you do if you came into Warner Records? And I was like, phase 1 is data literacy and communication, and that, once we can all share a language, then we can start cranking out some cool stuff that we can all apply. And I've been there 3 years since.
So it all came full circle,
yeah.
essentially.
And the music industry always does that. It will go full circle constantly, as long as you've kind of hopefully made a few good connections on the way up.
And not burnt any bridges along the way, because it's a small world.
Like I said, I managed to get fired on my first job, so I think I've definitely burnt a few bridges, but...
But you built some too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, building bridges.
Yeah. I think you mentioned something interesting, which was, I guess, when your dreams of a rock stardom, if that's even the term, fell away, you decided to go into artist management. And then there was a point where you spoke about the switch into analytics. Can you talk a bit more about that and what made you divert into analytics, data, consultancy? Because there are loads of artist managers today that don't take that route.
Yeah, it's a lovely debate. I'd want like a kind of, it's a fun one for a fireside chat energy, because my rhetoric ends up, stepping away from data or analytics as a kind of isolated thing. It is just vocabulary for describing a journey or an action or an event or something. So the idea that data and analytics is kind of compartmentalized is
wrong. Are you basically saying it's always been a part
I'm
of
not
your
saying
journey?
you're wrong. No, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Oh, okay, good, because I'm always right.
I think that's a consequence of like slightly corporate thinking about it. But our president of Warner Records has a really lovely way of referencing it, and his expertise as an A&R. This is Joe Kentish. I'm paraphrasing, trying to quote his expertise at A&R. Within A&R is grounded in the fact he's seen and helped create thousands and thousands of songs. So he is an analyst within the context of his domain. Maybe he doesn't have certain technical tools, but the transition that we're kind of focusing on is not that meaningful a change, in the sense that the data was always there and
Was it that the data was always there and always existed, but nobody had tapped into it?
Yeah, to a manner of speaking, and providing structure to the conversation. So now, like within the context of the creativity that we work with in Warner and the maturing kind of analytics marketplace, the way I think of it is like it's all about the definition of success and how we move our creative, partners on a journey from point A to a shared definition of success. It's a kind of formalization, perhaps, of a process that you always have the potential to do, and it can be very numbers-based or in a database, or it can be very intuitive or like expertise human-led, and it's all valid. It's an analyst. Part of the joy and the excitement and the challenge is around pulling at all these strands and trying to tease them into a structured format, which is then scalable and criticizable in a kind of logical fashion.
So essentially like solving business challenges in a creative way.
Oh, nailed
Did I
it.
summarize that well?
So good.
Okay, but you know what? We're going to talk about that a bit further on. But what I really wanted to get at is, I guess, you went from being an artist manager.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, you were touring with artists.
Yeah.
You were supporting them, perhaps getting them bookings for gigs and all that good stuff.
Find their socks. Where
It's
they
so
put their
different
socks, you got to get their shoes on.
from what you do today.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It is. You're not looking after an artist today. Well, you
No,
are, but not in the
indirectly,
same
but-
way.
Yeah, totally. I think it's good to, sorry to any artist managers listening, just the socks comment. I don't want to be patronizing. My point is, it's a crazy job that you have to do. There's all sorts of weird things you have to do to keep the wheels on the bus when push comes to shove. And, I think that is invaluable. And if I get a soapbox, which you kind of given me here a bit, and I'm saying what makes a good analyst, it's to know your domain. And the experience as an artist manager, various experiences in publishers and labels, has given me such close proximity to what the final task is, and an understanding of how hard our colleagues have to work and how hard the artists are having to work, and what it means to be creative in a commercial context, and the wild challenges that brings up as a human, the emotional response to a lot of the challenges. That then totally frames how I try and communicate as an analyst and reprioritizes consistently the audience perspective. So the audience is always right, sort of thing. The customer is always right. Mm-hmm. And I want to, I think, in the endeavor to create like a good analytical resource or good analytical resources, you have to prioritize that in a big way.
So all of that makes sense, but I guess the point that I'm trying to come back to is what made you decide that today I am not just going to be an artist manager, I am going to be an analyst. I'm going to look at where my artists fall upon the charts. I'm going to dig into the data and see whether they're going to be number one next week. Like what was the switch? The reason why I asked this question, right, is because I think there are a lot of people that are interested in careers in music. And there may be some young listeners who are interested in music, but they don't want to be an artist. They don't want to be an artist manager. And I kind of want to use this platform as a way to get them to think about all the options available to them.
Love that.
So
Okay.
it would be really good if you could shed some light as to what advice you'd give a young person who's considering a career in music that's not literally being the face, right? But behind the scenes supporting the label as you do.
Yeah. I love that intention.
Let's give them some insight.
Yeah. So, number one, easier to get paid as an analyst than an artist manager, especially with the rise of tech companies and all the data that comes with that. You know, a couple of things. There's an immense amount of work done behind the scenes, whether you consider yourself mathematically strong or you know, strong in a STEM subject or not. I would encourage at least an investigation into the analytical space because, number one, you have the tools available to you, such as Ultrix, to navigate lots of complicated technical thinking in a really easy and direct way. I'm running things way beyond my kind of skill grade thanks to Ultrix. So for those of you that feel a little bit skeptical about the availability of this path to you, I'd say go for it. Like, there are people doing the work to make things easy for you, and it's a lot more achievable than you think there.
And sorry to cut you, but
That's all right.
you did a physics degree, right?
Yeah.
And you're really good at maths and science. So would they need to have a degree like that? Could they have any sort of background? Is that important in the music industry?
The priority situation for now, I think, is diversity of thought and diversity of approach to problems and diversity of experience. And I didn't know this at the time. You know, when I was doing my physics degree, analytics has become a domain within the music industry over the past few years. So I didn't kind of plan this or anything. I was lucky, and I've been able to use the fact I had a physics degree to my advantage. So do you need to do a STEM? So STEM is science, technology, engineering, maths. Do you need to do a STEM degree? Potentially helps in one sense, but absolutely not necessary. Like I say, Ultrix is providing products that will happily tackle those sorts of technical challenges. What you need, fairly recently, it's probably a year ago now, employed a member of staff, and the outstanding factor that swung it in their favor was the creativity in which that they dealt with the problem. So we set some problems for them to deal with in the interview process, and theirs was very distinctly, oh, wow, I would never have thought to do it that way. That's really important to get in the room. They've communicated really well alongside it. Let's go. That's the agenda. And I appreciate that sort of creativity can take a certain type of confidence and feel daunting. And there's work to be done perhaps in outreach and making sure people are aware that they have that kind of innate ability and stuff. That's a thing to be tackled. But we're upskilling people into analytics spaces at the moment at Warner who are explicitly not from a STEM background, but they bring really unique takes, and that's the priority.
No, it makes sense. And I think earlier on, just now, you touched upon diversity of thought. It's interesting because I'm very passionate about diversity, equality, inclusion and belonging. And I'd really love to hear how you think DEIMB relates to work culture, especially from a perspective as an analyst.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are deeply entwined. And I'd be interested in your feedback on this, actually, because let me know whether you think this thinking is in the right direction.
Sure.
Psychological safety is the number one indicator of a high-performing team. Often the people Ultrix are dealing with, major record labels and all the other incredible tech companies you're working with, these are now just high-performing teams. And
Yeah.
if we are looking to optimize our skill sets, psychological safety is foundational to the communication and high performance of a team, and the ability to like adapt, react to insight. So a company has to go through quite significant changes if it's a legacy company now trying to sustain an analytical ecosystem. And so everyone in the room has to be ready to kind of reflect and communicate on that level. That just seems intrinsically tied to agendas of validating your peers, being seen, hearing people effectively. The link is it's about the foundation of, success is around true democracy and honest communication. And that is quality communication is intrinsically related to a DEI agenda, because it's about bringing your true selves to
Absolutely.
the space.
Yeah, I completely agree. So for me, it's all about authenticity and feeling like I can bring my whole self to the workplace, right? So when you speak about honesty and quality and how I'm communicating, how I'm being perceived, I will only feel comfortable to do that if I am working in an environment where that's encouraged, where the culture is positive, where I feel heard, where I feel like people will respect whatever I bring to the table, even if they don't necessarily agree with what I'm saying. So I think that's where diversity of thought is important, especially, I guess, within the music industry, because your audience is varied. It's people from all kinds of walks of life. And so having a diverse team who can hopefully relate in some way to different people, I think it means that you're more likely to bring out better music, be a better company, and hopefully one that talented people want to work for.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we can end up finding is when we're on these journeys of instilling change in our environments, the response that you receive to providing new analytical solutions, within an analytical role, you are often given the responsibility of affecting change. So you are reporting some information to either support an action or change an action, actionable insights. And the experience of communicating at scale and then being met potentially with people that don't necessarily absorb the information, or you have miscommunicated in a way that makes the information unable to reach your intended audience. And then when you kind of step into the exercise of self-reflection and what is happening internally for me as a communicator and just a human in this network of other people, and how can I reach them and how can I help them change their mind, and what resistances do I feel as a person when I'm either experiencing my own resistances to change. I think that's what I'm trying to tap into when I'm saying a kind of analytical progression goes hand in hand with a DEI agenda, because we're having to go through fantastic periods of change and
analyze it as we go along.
Analyze it and the resistances that people experience. You're watching whole groups of people resist to a DEIB. I haven't heard DEIB before, so I'm interested in bringing belonging into my vocabulary.
Well, you've already been discussing it. You just didn't mention it. When you spoke about honest and quality communication, right?
Yeah.
That's what you said. Yeah, well, you can't do that if you don't feel like you belong.
Sure.
Like, if I don't feel like I'm part of a group, I won't feel comfortable to voice my opinion in that group.
Sure.
It's the same kind of concept.
And then when you are now in a position of leadership, all
Soon come.
To come.
I'm just manifesting it.
But in as a communicating leader, I've seen you talking to the Queen. Everyone go Google it. It's fucking great. You're a communication leader.
Yes.
And as we communicate, we'll watch little groups of people either accept the communication or reject the communication. That's the analogy I'm trying to kind of tease out in this conversation between the spaces. It's like, okay, there I've got a win. I can double down my resources and we can begin elevating and celebrating together. But I've got this group here that's not listening, and like now I need to go into a reflective, like, do I change, but does that compromise my authenticity? I've got to take them on a journey somehow. And how do I do that?
Through compromise.
Sure.
I think
Teach me.
everyone can be authentic, everyone can voice their opinion, but at the same time, everyone needs to be aligned. So you can't go with option A, you can't go with option B, but you can find the middle ground. And I think that's where like analytics and data comes into play, because you have the human side, which is, this is how I view this data. And then you have the logical side, which is, this is literally what the data is telling us. And then you've got people interpreting it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have a discussion about it. And you come to a common ground, right?
Absolutely. And I guess it's the mechanics of that discussion, which is a fascinating point. And the bit like, I love exploring the psychology of it all and how it all...
But that's what's needed to solve, I think, personally anyway, business challenges today. So we need the tools like Ultrix to help us unlock the data and the insights, but then we need a diverse pool of thought to really interpret that data and make sure that whatever we implement is relatable to a diverse audience.
Amen to that.
I think that's where the two marry.
Yeah, and Ultrix is set up to democratize the data conversation. So, you know, phase one within our strategy is very much about the literacy and data confidence of everyone in the room.
And hopefully people like yourself can, I guess, continue to support other analysts in improving their data confidence, right? I mean, our organization aims to do that with our tools. You aim to do that with your experience and your tools and your mentoring. And, you know, I think just to wrap it all up, I think it's really great to see how far you've come from dreams of being a rock star to...
Still dreaming.
to kind of not doing so great in your A-levels, but using that detour to find yourself as the analyst and future music executive, I said it here first, that you're going to be. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's really important as well what you spoke around psychological safety, us feeling like we can be heard and we belong and that our opinion is at least heard and that we have a seat at the table to discuss some of these topics, right? Because that's the only way we can hopefully find some solution to some of the challenges that we face.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I've got one final question for you, Mr. Charlie Torrable. And that is, what advice would you give to anybody that's listening today? Because the reason why I say that, and before I go into it, like, don't give the stereotypical advice, which is just work hard. We know that.
Oh,
what
no.
I mean,
protect yourself.
What
Don't
I mean.
Work too hard. I've done the working hard. It doesn't pay. Just protect yourself.
Let me clarify that question.
Yeah.
When I say advice, I mean, you've obviously gone through a lot of hurdles, but you've still managed to stick to your career in music. You found a different way for yourself. You've created a path for yourself that perhaps you didn't know existed. So with that in mind, what advice would you give to anyone listening today?
If you can, get in a mindset where you enjoy the process of learning.
Oh, that's good.
Because then you can hop and skip your way around anything, really. I think that's the only thing. I never want to advocate for uni as a solution, as there's going to be so many ways to build up the skill sets. In my journey, I definitely look to my uni experience for being like the space in which like I really developed confidence in learning. And also it had things like all the societies, you know, I went for election in various societies and started learning how to fail a bit as well. That's
really quickly, what uni did you go to?
Southampton.
Okay, shout out Southampton.
Big up Southampton.
Yeah.
Physoc, if anyone was in the Physics Society. And so I know that channel worked for me. Oh man, this part breaks my heart a little bit sometimes because a lot of people get fucked up by their teachers. Like the learning has been kind of beaten, or the joy of it has been beaten out of them by the time you've finished, say got to 16. So, hey, here's a confession. I couldn't remember how to code at all. I did a tiny bit of coding at uni. I had no coding when I went back to Warner. And most of my job now, apart from everything picked up by Ultrix, most of it requires some fairly substantial coding fundamentals. I got in, I was like, yeah, can code. And then within a couple of weeks, it was like, I'd called up a few friends. It's like, someone needs to teach me how to code. And then that got me far enough for 6 months. And then luckily for me, Alteryx turns up and that sees me through the next 2.5 years. But just because I knew if I got in the door, I'm good to learn this. And I'm not a blagger. I'm not talking about the salesman energy of being like, yeah, I can do this. It's like...
Quick disclaimer, we're not encouraging people to land interviews. Just have to put that out there.
No. Should we edit that bit out?
No, we don't need to. I just mean that I get it. It was the thing that you knew that you could learn.
Yeah.
Just because you weren't good at coding when you were 16 doesn't mean that you're not going to be good at it today, right?
Exactly. But this has been foundational to, I think, most of my journeys when, I quit music and became a production manager for science shows. And we're touring like the Middle East and we're touring the UK and some of Europe doing shows where we're blowing up hydrogen and things. And you're like having to learn how to do risk assessments or tour managing other artists. It's like...
You're always learning.
Yeah. And it's just being like, you know what, I'm going to be okay because I know how to learn something.
Yeah.
Would be, that also, I say that with love. And if anyone wants to talk about that, please reach out on LinkedIn or socials. But I also am aware that there is quite a lot.
Charlie Torrible, by the way, on LinkedIn.
Charlie Torrible, Torrible.
Horrible, but with a T.
Exact. Thank you so much. There is potentially quite a lot of privilege associated with that statement of like, yeah, just love learning. So, and that...
Whoa, sorry, I have to disagree. I don't think so. I think everybody has access to the internet.
Sure.
And I think learning is not confined to a classroom.
Absolutely.
And so when you say never stop learning, it's like, well, never stop going on YouTube, never stop going on Google,
100%,
never stop listening to podcasts.
Well, maybe if you've been on YouTube for like 8 hours, time to get off YouTube.
Agreed. But you know what I mean? Within reason. I think the point you're making is never stop remembering that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But you can go and seek them.
Thank you.
Mic drop.
Thanks for listening. For resources mentioned in today's episode, including guides for getting started with Alteryx, check out our show notes at community.alteryx.com/podcast. Catch you next time.
Doyen's the best. She kicks my ass constantly. But you know what?
You're going to get me fired.
No. For my... Absolutely to my benefit. Full credit to Alteryx for getting someone so amazing on their team because
very sweet.
I joke with the ass kicking, but she is there and make sure I'm focused and make sure that Alteryx are really, I don't know how to phrase this, they're like constantly turbocharging me. So I don't get any time to just like soften into lazy mode. There's always something we can be improving. That's not a question, that's a monologue. And so now I'm gonna think of a question for Doyen. What's your favorite thing about Inspire so far? Has there been either a good talk you've seen or a favorite moment or favorite thing of Alteryx Inspire so far?
I think my favorite thing has been seeing my colleagues, friends, customers, partners thrive. I know that sounds very sort of generic, but the reason why I say that is because I'm seeing people push themselves, whether it be speaking in public, hosting on the stage, demonstrating the progress they've had with Alteryx, coming out for dinner and I guess being more sociable if they're an introvert. I just see people evolving and I think that's what Inspire's about.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been really lovely to witness that and be a part of it.
Yeah, heck yeah. And we're on the Alteryx Lovin'. I'd totally support that and, want to share some gratitude for Alteryx has been great at giving me some speaking platforms and it's done wonders for my progression in that space as well. So yeah, it's amazing seeing, it's exactly as you said, thrive. You can feel people, sharing excitement and fun ideas and everyone's lectures are really good. Like, really good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I've given presentations. It's not easy to give like a good, clear 30-minute, you go on a journey, you go from A, you go from B, multiple skill levels in the room. Everyone's like, yeah, each one I've been like, damn,
Yeah.
that was well designed.
We've got some intelligent people, but we've got some nice people as well.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Love that. Thank you. How long have you been at Ultrix?
I have been at Ultrix just over a year.
Okay.
Yeah. I
And
started in October last year.
what was your journey to Ultrix?
As in prior to Ultrix?
Yeah.
Okay, so prior to Ultrix, I worked at IBM. So I left school at 18, did a gap year at IBM, went to university, but kept going back every summer. And then decided that I deserved to be fast-tracked because they were fast-tracking all the interns. So when I say interns, I mean like placement students. So
Right.
gap year between second and third year of university.
Yeah.
And I was like, even though I did a year before university, I had done every summer since. And so I had actually done more time combined.
Mm-hmm.
So I put a case forward and they fast-tracked me onto the graduate scheme.
Amazing.
So I joined IBM. And from there, I just saw how they were using technology to answer some of the world's biggest problems. And I was really intrigued.
Wow.
Never saw myself as a technical person.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't really feel like I am. But I like the fact that you can make a difference using technology. And I feel like it's going to be here forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
So we might as well embrace it.
Until the
Till the bitter
machines
end.
uprise.
Well, it's never up. It's just going to keep evolving.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's good.
You know. And then did a few years there and decided that it was time for a change. Came over to Ultrix
Amazing.
and I've really enjoyed it. It's been a fun ride.
Amazing.
And hopefully it will continue to be.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're our account exec?
Yes, I am.
She's an amazing account exec. Like I said, just keeps us focused on progress and opening doors about all the new exciting things we can do, which I never even realised.
I didn't pay him to say that.
No, but this is
sounds like I did.
no, but this is your authentic energy. Like I want, it's given me a lot. So want to kind of give back. It is funny, like the tone. Everyone is quite fanatical here. The event is called Ultrix Inspire, but
Yeah.
and I'm becoming one of these people, and I'm a little bit like, have I joined a cult? Is this like?
No, it's just good vibes.
It is good
A
vibes.
lot of
I know.
high
I can
energy,
leave
good
at any
vibes.
time I want.
Yes.
I can't.
He's not
can't
chained or anything like that. Gosh.
There's drink and refreshments provided.
Exactly.
Oh man. What are you most excited about in the Ultrix roadmap? Maybe that's not quite the right word. It's like you're responsible for us like developing and onboarding with the tool.
Yeah.
What gets you excited about it from your side?
What about our products? Or
Yeah, is that like, I don't really know what this question is.
I'm going to answer the question in the way that I think you're trying to say
Okay,
it,
yeah,
which
let's
is
do that.
what am I excited about within our portfolio?
Oh, yeah.
And I think for me, what's super exciting is Auto Insights.
Oh,
Yes.
love it.
No, but the reason why I love it is because I genuinely think it's a great product.
Yeah.
And, we heard earlier in the conference from Natalie,
Yeah.
who manages Auto Insights. So the reason why I think it's great is because I do think it actually solves a business challenge that a lot of customers have, which is they've got to share information in real time to executives who may not understand all the mechanics that takes place within a dashboard, right? And sometimes there's information there, but you don't know what you don't know. And I think it's really
Oh my
cool that
God.
it highlights that. And I think it's great that it highlights that in plain English as well, because we're not all techies.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes simplicity is the superpower that's needed to just kind of get on with things.
Amen.
And that's what Auto Insights does.
Love it. Smashed it.
Thanks.
I'm going to go to the Auto Insights booth. I need to go check that out because I have been told multiple times, not just by Doyen, by multiple people, that the problems I am verbalizing, the challenges I'm facing, I want solutions for, can be fixed in that. So I need to like get my head out the sand, go and check it out. Thanks for tuning in to Charlie's Half. of the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
Anything you want to, anyone you want to shout out? And what do we do at the end? What you having for dinner?
What am I having for dinner?
Have you got a fancy dinner booked in?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
am I invited? Not to
Maybe.
this one. Where are we going? Everyone, I'm not sure when this goes out, but it's Doyen's birthday on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Blow up her Twitter. Do you have Twitter?
I do.
What is it?
It's so boring. It's at Doyen Sonibar.
Okay,
very boring.
fantastic. Surname spelled?
Sonibare.
Amazing. Everyone go wish Doyen a happy birthday. Say thanks for being an amazing AE. And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thank you.